Hello. Hi, Mike. Can you hear
Morning.
me?
Yep.
All right, great. I see you are at your kitchen. Okay.
Yes. Forgive the
All right,
background.
all right, no worries. So how's my voice? Is it all right?
Hmm.
Okay, all right, good. So let's start. So maybe start by sharing some wins. Would you like to do that on your side?
Sure.
Any wins, learnings?
I think, yeah, well, on Friday, I was spent a lot of time with, what was it, doing personal development. That's the day I generally tend to do personal development stuff.
Okay,
So,
okay, all
and
right.
by that, I mean, I have my, a pod call and I had an accountability call from coach.
Uh-huh.
Well, with a coach member.
Okay.
So, and then I spend more time in the morning reading um, and reflecting and stuff like that. But I also have a little bit of
Oh,
work.
nice.
But
Okay,
it's
okay.
so that was good, and it was interesting seeing just listening to other people and giving feedback and stuff like that.
Okay, okay,
I think Yeah, I just remember Friday being a really good day, actually. But I
okay, all
think
right.
the weekly planner
Hmm.
from Coach, that's a
Right.
really interesting process because I did the RDOS on Friday.
Uh-huh.
Just I'm almost finished doing the weekly planner for this week.
Hmm.
Um, but it does really help um, focus the mind on what one wants to do and get done. And then it also gives a point in time that you can sit there and reflect against. So you can sit there
Okay.
and go, well, did I did I actually reach the goal? I think there's
Okay.
a lot of on Friday, there's a lot of what people understand to be impossible goals and
Mm.
what people understand to be 10x and
Uh-huh.
why people there's a lot of confusion out there, at
Okay.
least in the pod group that I'm a part of. It's
Okay.
interesting because the idea of being is an impossible goal 10x,
Uh-huh.
and I think what people don't appreciate is that you have to be measuring where you are for you to and understand where you are to
Mm.
realize what an impossible goal is.
Right.
So
Okay.
if you're not aware of who you are or where you are right now, how will you
Hmm.
know whether or not the goal is impossible or not? and
Mm.
and in fact, any goal could be impossible. Depends
Right.
on how honest you are about what your starting point is. And
Mm.
so
Right.
it was really interesting talking this through with the other guys because they were asking questions. I don't know the answers, but I'm a lot more comfortable with what it means to me. I don't
Mm.
I, I don't have the same questions that they have. So therefore, I'm not saying I'm right. It's just I'm
Mhm.
comfortable with my opinion on what it means.
You're
Does
more
that make
confident. Yes, yes. When you're setting your impossible goals, you feel less confused about, for example,
Yeah,
what would be possible or impossible goals for you. Is that
yeah,
what you're saying?
exactly.
Okay,
Yeah, and
okay.
and it's like so if the guys were sort of going, and they're going around in circles. I'm like, look, there's a reason why he wrote 10x last. Dan and Ben decided that you have to start with
Right,
who, not how. Then you
right,
go to gap and gain. Then you
right,
go to 10x. And it's
right.
like utilize the special abilities of other people, measure
Yeah.
from what you've actually achieved, not from where you want to get to, and then
Mm,
pick your tasks.
mm,
Then keep refining it. But unless you understand who you are and what you've got, how do
mm.
you know whether or not you're 10xing or not?
Mm,
10x
right.
isn't necessarily bigger, it's better. It can be.
Uh-huh.
So
Right.
it's quite interesting, really.
Okay. Nice. Nice.
But I
Wow.
also,
Thanks for sharing that. All right. So,
sorry, I don't know why the dog's yapping, but anyway.
okay.
Um,
So, oh, yeah.
yeah. So I
Okay.
just think
Thanks.
I think that was all really interesting kind of insight for the whole process. And I also think that when I say you have to know where you are, it's like for you to sit there and not you for the sorry,
Mhm.
I use
Yeah.
you, I don't you, I
Yeah.
mean
Yeah. Yeah. Just no worries.
for the individual to sit there and say, oh, a million. I'm just making that up, right? A million is the impossible goal. Well, actually, no, not a million. I'll make it 10 million. Right, that's an impossible goal because you suddenly think, well, let's just make it bigger, right? Because that'll make
Right.
it possible.
Right.
So, um, but if you've only got 10,
Mm-hmm.
not even 100,
Mm-hmm.
well, yes, a million or 10 million is impossible. Well, it's not just impossible. Well, I mean, it's beyond impossible. It really is impossible because it's not even achievable. And therefore, it's not
Uh-huh.
a case of it being impossible. It's just not, it's not relevant because you've only got 10. And for you to
Uh-huh.
go from 10 to a million or 10 million,
Uh-huh.
that kind of scale, that's not 10x. You see,
Uh-huh.
so you've got to understand where you are in your
Uh-huh.
reality before you
Right.
can sit there and go, well, 10x or impossible or whatever you want it to be. There's okay.
Uh-huh.
You see, so 10x is like, it's almost like 10x is a multiplier of where you want to go, but
Uh-huh.
impossible is that's your 25-year goal, right? It's not
Uh-huh.
necessarily a number, right? So if we look at three
Uh-huh.
Hag, we look at Jim Collins, you look at your
Right.
purpose of being. So
Mm-hmm.
if it's the equality of men and women, or if it's the more equal distribution of wealth, or the whatever it is, they're not
Uh-huh.
numbers.
Uh-huh.
They're
Right.
impossible goals because one doesn't, because there are so many other random factors. But coming back to 10x, well, you know, we're turning over 100, so let's turn over, a million.
Okay. Okay.
So that becomes, and working towards the impossible isn't about necessarily gaining it. It's just that I think you can have an impossible goal which is so far reaching, it's
Uh-huh.
into the future. But then from a quantifiable point of view, you need to be turning over what is a reality.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
anyway, I don't know.
All right.
I,
Thanks. Thanks
just
for sharing. All right.
thoughts.
So maybe maybe I'll feedback quickly on what I understand. Okay. Again, this is my understanding. May not be right. Uh, because I'm actually in Ben's you know rapid transformation challenge, the coaching now. Right now I'm sign up for it. So I think the impossible is really about, yeah, impossible. It's you don't think it's achievable within a certain time, especially in respect to a time frame, I think. Yeah. I mean, 10x could be hard, but it could still be achievable, right? It could still be something that's doable. It's just hard, or but impossible is really just something beyond your thinking. And you can set impossible goals. Like Ben challenged us now to set up goals by the end of this year, right? So, it could also be impossible for the next month, next week. So it's simply beyond your current capability. I think it doesn't have to necessarily be a long time span. It could just be like, for example, if I were to tell you I'm going to make $1 million in the next 24 hours, for example, right? That to me now seems impossible because I have not the slightest clue how to actually make it, right? Although, right, it may be achievable, right? For example, with the right tool, who knows? Yeah, but anyway, all right. So I'll share some wins. Okay. So I wrote down some, but I also, realized there's something to share too. So quickly, I realized that building our old family house, just start a project, just simply do the project thing could be the one thing. That could actually pull a lot of what I'm currently doing towards that. Kind of like a, future self sucking you towards that. Pull, not a push motivation. And just in a conversation with my dad and just doing some budget estimate, I realized we could be fundraise anything between 10 million to 100 million US dollar. Okay. 10 million being we just want to build our own base. 100 million being if we are ambitious enough to actually take over the other developers' land and build it together. That would be 100 million project. Obviously, we wouldn't be the only fundraiser for that one. Okay, they will contribute as well. But yeah, so but that's interesting. I mean, the fact that we never really thought about that, and also realized there were some pools, right? So there's the design phase, there's the funding phase, there's the building phase. I think Dr. Young is the perfect pool for the building phase. For the funding phase, I'm actually thinking about Ian. Remember that UK guy, the ICO guy we talked we had a conversation with. Yeah, I mean, if this were to go to become an ICO funding project somehow, then he might be one of the hosts to consider. For design, maybe actually one of my cousin is an architect, with a degree, yeah. So, but I'm sure there could be others from Dr. Yang. So it's just kind of getting more concrete. The other win is I joined the first live coaching call for RTC, okay, the Rapid Transformation Challenge. As in my time, it's Saturday midnight, and because there's an NDA, okay, so I have to say upfront that Ben doesn't want us to like share stuff, materials, process. But suffice to say, I think what I was experiencing or seeing, witnessing was there were a lot of people actually, I mean, they were very eager to share their experience. And also already there's quite a few that are making like literally major breakthroughs. Like this woman is seeking funding for a few $1 million, 10, I think, $10 million in funding. She'd never done it before. And she's already on call, with maybe a couple of $1 million, okay, just over the last week since starting the challenge. And like, for example, for me, after starting the challenge, you probably knew that my experience Thursday, right? I shared that with you of rebuilding JCF from scratch, right? Using latest tool. That is also something that I wasn't really expecting, even a week before. And it already happened. And actually, I just shared that with Josh earlier before this call. And he got really excited because he realized, wow, we don't have to have a front end developer anymore. That was kind of a pain for him as well. So yeah, I mean, the possibility just starts to, I think, become a bit infectious. And I think one of the key, both in that woman's case and maybe in my own case, I think it's really just a change in perspective and thinking. It's actually really not about more effort. It is about how to look at things just a bit differently, you know? Like before I was assumed we have to build everything ourselves, right? But I started to ask the question, what if we start from zero and we want to just get things done and utilizing the latest technology, the tools that's available out there, and what happens, right? I just changed the question being asked and I started to looking for the tools and it just happened, right? So I think that kind of change in perspective, I think, again, that's the value and virtue of setting up impossible goals is that like 10x, right? It's a filter. You change the filter of the information or of the things to do. Okay, so I guess that's yeah, so I guess it's really about where your attention, your eyes are, looking at things. Where are you paying attention to? So all right, so that's for me. All right. So let's have some discussion. Okay. Uh, so we have, I think, the funnel that we can talk about, and also I think you wanted to talk about um, like funding, right? Projects, like current spending with the people, and uh, I mean anything, but I mean just anything. What would you like to discuss? Do you think you would be the most value? I can share with you a bit of the process flow, just some notes I draw down as a preliminary client journey. Okay, that's
Okay.
something you asked before. Yeah, but it's just a simple list, but I think it's just, like kind of the sort of the basic process of what happens. Um, okay, so I mean, what's top on your mind now that you may move things forward?
Well, in your opinion, is the book done? In your
Yes,
opinion, the page is okay.
yes, I think it's
Okay.
releasable. Yeah.
So next stage is what?
Next stage is the landing page and start to do advertisements, I guess.
So no, I just said the landing page, the pages. Are they? I've given you the pages, right?
Oh, right. You mean so you want to look over the page?
Well, I
Um,
posted them on Slack, so
right. Okay. All right. So let's go over that. So or you want to share it on your side, your end?
I don't mind. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. Go ahead. Oh yeah. I forgot. I had a discussion with the Fluidify guys last Friday. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
And uh they were actually quite yeah, so Louis, the CTO, was in Asia this week. I mean, actually for maybe up to a month, 3, 4 weeks in
Right.
Singapore, and then I think Hong Kong. There are crypto, like fintech events, and actually, I think. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot this. This is actually also another win or progress. Is that kind of clarify that because we discussed about the the prospect or the possibility of doing a decentralized fund. Okay, meaning that we don't hold custody of client assets and how we might be able to go about that. So Lewis actually suggests that it's possible that if we build a small obviously one way is like the Binance approach. And I check with them, logically works, just ask the client to open Binance account and share keys with us. That's one way. The other way, he said that would be to actually create a smart contract and allow the client to put their assets to the contract. So the contract actually acts as the fund. Okay, so in that sense, we don't have the keys to the client's assets, but the fund would, be doing some rebalancing, index investment strategy, for example, on the client's behalf. And then, whatever profit it generates, it can also redistribute. So that actually can go to our way, right? Into, let's say, our wallet. So that will actually fit nicely with the whole philosophy of decentralized finance. Okay, and I did a bit of survey and start to realize what's really interesting is that even if we go by like liquidity pools, I don't know like how much you're aware, but I try to get a deeper dive and realize that what liquidity pool does is that you put two assets, let's say Bitcoin and USDT, right, to the contract. But the contract actually doesn't have your private key. Okay, I don't know if you are
What?
aware of that. A contract can move your assets. For example, like if you want liquidity, right? If let's say you want to trade some BTC for USDT, right? You could just go to a liquidity pool an LP and to basically trade it with that pool. Okay, so you would, for example, give your BTC to the pool.
Yeah, you got to do 50-50. So if it's USDT and Bitcoin, then you would do,
right. That is as a staker, as someone who puts money in, right? Kind of like a lender, right? If you're a lender, you put 50-50, right? But what the putting actually means is you still keep your private key. Okay, I don't know if you are aware of that. Meaning that, okay, in theory, you still have complete access control of your assets. It's just that you are pre-authorizing the contract to move the assets or trade the assets on your behalf. Should there be, requests for, let's say one of the coins, one of the cryptos there. Okay, so you are pre-approving the transaction in advance. But then if there, and then there's a counterparty that wants to, trade. So in that sense, actually, I mean, obviously, barring there's some maybe security flaw in the liquidity pools smart contract. Okay, barring there's bugs, there's security flaws. If it's well designed, if it's safe, then in theory, when you're when you're putting assets to a liquidity pool, you still maintain your private keys, okay, which is not revealed. Okay, so this is very different from, let's say, you put your assets to an exchange, where the exchange is holding the private keys to those assets, right? Okay, so one thing they did mention is that in the, the FTX, right? FTX crash, right? It got busted last, and what happened was all the centralized custody, basically in the custody's assets, they were all lost. Okay. However, the DeFi part, okay, through FTX, but they were using kind of DeFi mechanisms to lend or do all their assets were safe because the private keys, it's just that the smart contract ceased to function, for example, right? Shut down, but the assets are still held by the owners with their private keys. So that's really interesting. Okay. Even though they were putting that to FTX for, I guess, for liquidity purpose, right? To earn basically some interest by, putting into FTX liquidity pools. So what that entails, I guess, from a design perspective, is that we just they did mention that this might require a bit of work, but again, I asked, are there existing projects that's already doing this? So they could exist. I mean, I'm sure some people are doing this. Basically, contracts that are taking assets and operated as a fund. Okay, by the contract. So that means we could literally construct an index fund that is totally run by a smart contract. Okay.
Okay, people... that but Chinyan, I thought that's not a surprising statement to me.
Okay.
And I would have, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I would have thought that can be done. And okay. And in a way, is that not the direction that we were going in anyway?
Yes.
I think last week I sat there and I said, well, surely we can just write this into the contracts. When we were talking about, well, if the customer gets paid a dividend, then how do we get our money back from that? Well, that's the smart contract. The smart contract takes care of that. That if we make if we make a profit, then X will come out. So I would have thought that's all part of the process of having it in a contract. Now, I don't know how to do it. I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know how, but in concept, I get it.
Okay.
And I think then that whether or not we write. I mean, it's an interesting question, because at the moment it's all about, well, somebody puts some money in, then we make the manual kind of process, and then we pay the dividends manually, as it were. But what we want to do is if we can remove our, I think
manual
that's
aspect, right?
things, because if we remove ourselves from the process, the less touch we have on it, the better it is from a regulation point of view.
Right, true. And also from security perspective, also from a safety security perspective of the assets.
And I think that's an important statement you made there, is that's it. He made some, I can't remember what it was. It was some statement about liquidity pools not being, having to be really secure, or there being some lack of security within it. I think that's the only.
The only concern is whether the smart contract was well written. Okay, it doesn't have any bugs, holes, right? That a hacker or an attacker could potentially steal or block, denial of service, attack it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a denial of service can happen anywhere with anything, can't it? Really. It's just,
right.
Okay. Not a lot you can do about a denial of service, but there's certainly you don't want to have it so that somebody steals the asset itself.
No.
All right. Well, look, I mean, what does that mean then?
Okay.
Where does it
well, what that means is that if we are really looking at taking people's money in serious amounts, like in the millions, tens of millions, even 100 millions of range, then and if we do have a more secure mechanism to do this, okay, I think that might.
So wait a minute.
Might improve this.
When you say if we're really serious about taking people's money in the millions, hundreds of millions, right?
Right.
I don't think that's relevant. If we're really serious about taking people's money in the tens or the hundreds, full stop.
Right.
It's got to be secure. And I think that I don't think we should look at it from a point of view of just because somebody's a whale with a lot of money that they should get, a
better service,
more secure service.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Regardless of who it is, the customer gets the most secure service.
Right.
And I think I don't necessarily think that if we're gonna have the structure, or if our goals are around only looking at whales because they're going to be the ones that I mean, I don't know that that's a healthy way of looking at it, because it's what are we actually trying to do? Are we actually trying to if it's about creating a more equal distribution of wealth at a global level, and it's about creating a fund or a mechanism that will enable people of any kind of wealth,
any background,
to be able to invest in crypto and then generate a dividend, which they're willing to share part of that profit with other people. And I think that's the fundamental.
Correct.
Regardless of it now, and I think the way in which we build this comes down to, does it work? Yes or no? Have we proven that with a multitude of users? Yes or no? a big investor
Uh-huh.
will start to see it makes sense. It gives me a return. I'll put some of my investment into this. Now
Right.
that might be 10,000. It might be 10
Right.
million. We don't
Right.
know,
True.
but we've got to
Right.
make it work first.
Right. It has to be
And
a mechanism. Yes.
I think that unless I don't think we should be thinking, oh, we logically we know that 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 to hit the numbers we need to have multipliers of an order of magnitude that needs to be the 10 million, the 100 million, right?
Uh-huh. Right. Right.
But they're not going to come unless we can prove that it works to their benefit.
Right. True. That's right.
And whether or not that benefit is completely philanthropic or partially philanthropic, but mainly material gain is
Right.
it's a different question. That's up to the individual, right?
Right. 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 We
But
want to
I
provide the
think
flexibility too.
we need to gear it towards an increase of wealth with a philanthropic element,
Right.
with the
Exactly.
scope that you can have.
Right. Fully agree. Fully agree. Agree with all the statements you just made.
All right. Anyway, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So where does that leave us then?
That leaves we continue our current path. It's in alignment. What might help though is I think if we do have a decentralized way to execute our investment strategy, that would, I think, also help into this because it will demonstrate, that the mechanism is actually safe. And the fact that if we don't touch client assets, right, or if rather it's been done by a contract, then I think it's going to be interesting because then people are treated right as a mechanism they can experiment, and if they like the result, they might put more money, invite their friends, etc. Right.
Right.
So I do see that both in alignment to both our long-term and short-term goal. I am really think that we should move towards non-collateral, non-custodian based service while
Yeah,
still
I
executing
agree.
our strategy, while
Yeah,
still
so
executing our quote unquote safe and reliable investment strategy, which I think we do have a mechanism there. Yeah.
well, we're agreed on that because that I mean, for me, I think that makes sense because it removes an element of required what's the word regulatory requirements.
Exactly. It also
So
frees us up from
that's a
potential
no-brainer.
regulatory, yeah.
We get that done straight away. So but what does that mean then? Where are we at?
It means that, okay, in terms of action, it means that we probably want to do a survey on any existing contract that maybe can do 80 to 90% of what we want to do. Okay. I suspect and do a bit of modification to it. I suspect the modification would be related to our social purpose, the dividend distribution, the social dividend design part. That would be kind of the unique twist or, our contribution to it. I haven't done the full survey yet, but I suspect that there's already a contract that does just that, that what we want to do. And well, there are two parts we still have to figure out. One is how do we put the investment strategy to the contract so that it runs automatically, okay? While maintaining some flexibility so we can still adjust that, upgrade that, right, over time. Because we have to admit that investment strategy has to, right, probably will change, right, over time. And the second thing is having the dividend mechanism built into the contract. Now, that is something I think once done, it will just be done for once. Okay, because that's, that's just, we already have kind of the ratio already figured out, already designed. So that would more likely to be a one-time work. Okay. But
But no,
once
I thought we were going to make it available so that we could change it dependent on.
yes, we want to make it available as well. Yeah. I mean
I
all
still
these
think
contracts, they're
I
open.
still don't think that the initial setup is going to get a lot of traction because it's not generous enough. Because
okay. Yeah,
I think
so
if I'm quite frankly, if I was an investor, I wouldn't invest in this.
Okay, then adjust it to something
any...
you would then adjust the ratios to what you would invest, right?
Because I think the challenge is that if we've got it at the 75% stays within the fund,
right?
A way I look at that, and if
Uh-huh.
you tell me if I'm wrong, right? But if I've invested 100,
right,
and it doubles in size, so there's 100 profit,
right,
I'm only going to get paid 12.5% 100 profit directly to me. I'm going to share 12.5% with everybody else.
Right.
Okay,
yeah. I already accept. So just tell me your ratios.
No. Again, I want to make sure that I'm actually right in what I'm saying. And I think the challenge there is if
you're right.
70,
Right now we're paying people too little. We're paying people too little. Yeah.
But the question that's been asked of me in the past is if you've got the 25% that's being shared out as a dividend, that's 75%.
Right.
What happens when I want my money back? So, and here's the thing: if we answer it, there's two ways we answer it, right? We answer it, one, stays in the fund,
right,
or you get that back. So if I've put in 100, it's doubled in size, so we've now got 200. 75 of that extra 100 is sitting in the fund. When I take my money out, because that 75 is my profit from my 100, am I going to get that back? And if the answer is yes,
right now the answer is no. Right now the answer is no.
Exactly. So I would say that if people actually truly understand that when they do the maths, then they're going to go, I'm not doing that because you're keeping 75% of my profit.
Right.
You with me?
Well, yes, I'm with you. This is true for the larger guys. Okay, not true for the smaller guys.
What when you say it is true for larger but not the smaller, what do you mean by it's true?
Okay, it means that because the smaller guys actually contribute very little to the 75%, they're the beneficiary of, they actually get more ROI out of that, out of our mechanism than they would otherwise.
Okay, so granted that's a kind of percentage benefit.
There's probably a breakpoint which is calculable by math, okay, to see where that point is, in terms of I guess how much we invest, right? There's probably a point where it starts to become in favor, right? It becomes less favorable if you put more money in. And there's a point where it's more favorable, right? If you have less than that certain assets. But we do want to attract, people. So I agree. Definitely, I think the numbers can be adjusted. So
because I think the thing is, if you say, all right, if I'm just investing $100, then it kind of doesn't matter. But if I'm investing $10,000, then it makes a big difference. If I'm investing $1,000, it'd still be a lot to me because I'd sit there and go, okay, well, hang about. I'm gifting most of my profit away to somebody else.
Thanks for this. I think I also have maybe improve a bit on understanding on this, which is I think what we can do maybe a more reasonable approach is this. In the beginning, early days, when the dividend pool is small, we should reward a higher percentage to the investors. Okay, meaning that we keep a smaller dividend, retained part. So that means out of the let's say if the profit is $100, right? If we are paying just 25%, maybe we should increase that to 50 or maybe 75% or even more. Okay. In other words, the retained part is less. However, if the dividend pool continues to increase, okay, to a certain point, then it actually might start to make sense to keep a higher ratio. Okay, because at that point, what happens is, relative to your contribution, let's say, I'm just giving you an example, all right? If the dividend pool, let's say, one of the wealthiest guy, I don't know, Bill Gates, okay, he'd like to put $1 billion to our fund to start off the dividend pool, right? Then I think people would still get quite good return on their investment, even if the retained part is, even if we're just paying 25%, because 25% would still equate a lot, right? It would still be quite a lot, simply because do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. 25% is a lot.
Right.
I think what we have to do is be okay. If you sat there and said to me, Mike, invest 1,000 or 1,000,000 and I'll give you 25% return on investment, I'll go, well, okay. I know I could probably make 15% if I do it myself on this thing. Right, fine. Yeah, right. 25% is a good return. Thank you very much. I'll do it.
Right.
I don't care, right, that I don't know that the company, the fund, is actually making 55%.
I see your point.
Now,
so
that's one thing. Another thing then is, and I don't know the answer to this question, how transparent does a fund have to be with the type of profit it's making? Because in our
case, it's totally transparent, I think.
Sorry?
In our case, it's totally transparent.
Yeah, I get that. And that's where you can have a problem, right? But
okay.
From an investor point of view. But if you look at normal markets with the SEC or the FCA, for instance,
right.
How transparent do they require funds to be? Right. So if the fund, if the fund is making 100% return on investment,
right,
but it's only guaranteed 15%, for instance,
right.
Well, it's netting 85%. Does it have to report that 85% profit?
No, it's not a profit. Actually, it's not a profit. Because until it gets paid to us and under our control, it's not a realized profit. It's kind of like retained earning. If you use using accounting terms, it's more like retained earning. So it's not being used. It's being retained.
You retain earning.
It's retained earning. Yeah.
No, but you only retain earning at the end of the year. Once you've calculated all your operational expenditure, your assets and your tax liability,
right.
then at the end of it, your retained earning really is gross profit. That's what you've really, and that's what you're holding within the business from last year, so that you pull it forward to the existing year.
Right.
So that's retained earning.
Right.
I would say then that, look, at the end of the day, I mean, the exact accounting term I don't know, but if you sit there and you say to me, out of my 100, so out of whatever the number is, I've given you 15% of the profit, right? But I've kept 85% of that profit.
Right.
right? Because it's a profit in terms of you put in X amount and it's doubled in size, is what it's grown in size.
Right.
That to me is a, that's a, I guess it's a thing, so long as I'm getting, I don't know whether or not that's a problem.
I mean, there's a reason, there's a reason. It's the fact that we want to provide continuous and regular dividends to everyone. It's kind of like it's a buffer, right? It's a buffer. It's a right. It's a dividend. It's a savings account, right? It's yeah.
I get, well, it's not a savings account.
No, yeah. I mean, it's kind of. I'm just saying that it's for safety. It's
no, I get that, and it's for the benefit of the fund, and it's for the benefit of what Maine is trying to do, and I get that.
Long-term participants, the long-term participants.
And that's why I think,
and it rewards long-term participation as a result of that design. It actually rewards long-term participation.
And I get that, but I think that's why if we have the case of I think that we sat there and we were talking about it the other day. If you have 25, if your investment, you see, we either get around this one of two ways, right? We either sit there and say, we'll aim to give you a return on investment of X, 25% for argument's sake, right? Or a range, and we'll say we'll aim to give you a return on investment of between 5% and, I don't know, 50% for argument's sake.
Right. Okay. Right.
But then I don't know the answer to this question, and I'm kind of thinking it through as a speed.
I have a possible answer. Okay, just during the discussion, which is we can actually design, although this might be a bit more complicated, but we'll see how it goes. Like for a certain percentage, basically, I think the logic is like this. We want to pay people higher percentage. Basically giving them good ROI. Essentially, the idea is to give people good ROI. Okay.
Yeah.
So for example, if you do invest bigger amounts, then you do get, let's say, at least if the actual return of the fund is, for example, if it's 20%, right? Then what happens is we make sure that you get at least half of that, or even more, right? Or 70% of that. Okay, if your money is making 20%, if your money is making 50%, right? Okay, then what happens is we might decrease the relative percentage you get. However, you will still be getting something like, a relatively high return compared with other investment vehicles. So, okay, I'm just doing the calculation of my head. For example, if the fund is making 20%, and let's say you get 75% of that, so you're essentially making a 15% ROI, right? A 15% return on your investment. When the fund is actually making, let's say, 50% of profit, then we give you 20% ROI of your investment while keeping the 30 for the dividend pool. I'm just giving some example, okay? Or maybe half of that, right? So let's say if we use your money and actually make 50%, maybe you get half of that, so you get like a 25% return on your investment. So 25. So do you get what I'm trying to explain? Which is, you're getting, right, in the first case, 15% ROI. In the second case, you're getting 25% ROI, right? Regardless of the number, it's good return, right? Compared to other vehicles or where you will get otherwise. However, in the first case, we only keep your basically your money only helps to contribute about 25% of the profit to the dividend pool, whereas in the second case, it contributes 50% of the profit to the dividend pool. You see, so the idea is kind of like if our investment strategy helps you make more money, then you get more, but you also contribute more to the dividend pool. Does it make sense?
I thought, okay, so the way I thought about it the other day was that
right.
if you've got JCF Main, so essentially you've got two funds, JCF Main,
right. Okay,
and
sorry.
and then
let's say JCF VIP.
yeah, whatever. So the thing that people I think JCF Main has to be one that people opt into with the knowledge that most of it is going to stay within the fund and they're going to get a very small amount. I think then
okay, that's fair. Yeah.
And then JCF, call it VIP for want of a better term yet now, would give. That's where I sat there and said, well, whatever the profit is, we'll take 20% of it. There'll be an automatic 3% payment into JCF Main from that, where we will equal that 3% from the 20% that we get. All right, that was the logic there. So that JCF VIP is always feeding into JCF Main,
the main fund, right? The main dividend pool.
And if people want to put more into JCF Main because they understand the project, then they can. But we're only ever going to match 3%.
Okay. And we can set a minimal threshold. Let's say you have to put in at least 10,000 to join into the VIP fund, for example, right? We can set it up so that there is a threshold to how much you can join the VIP.
Well, then
because you're getting a high return, right? Because you're getting a high return of the.
Yeah, I think we should. I think then we should have maybe two. Maybe we should have a couple of different contracts then, because then you can have people that want to put in 100, then they go to JCF Main. People that want to go for 1,000, they go to JCF Gold. People that want to go for
platinum.
More, 10,000, yeah, they go to platinum, right? So we've got different products there.
Right. True.
Right, all of them giving different returns. So it might be. I think we just need to think about the maths of that and always think about it from, well, what am I as an investor? What am I making? Right. And the thing is, we might just sit there and say, well, look, if you go for gold, we will aim to give you a return on investment between 3 and 30%, for argument's sake.
Right. Something like that.
That's the right number, but if you go for platinum, we will aim to give you a return on investment of between 3 and 50%, for argument's sake.
Right. Something like that. Yes.
And now here's the thing, and this is where I don't know the answer to this question.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If acting as if I was to go to you see, my pension plan is different because my pension is I can see what the number is to start with. I can see the funds that it's been invested in, and I can see the results in terms of what the fund is after a given period of time.
Right.
I can see the money that's been deducted for the service of the management of that. That's all completely transparent, 100%.
Right.
But if I was to give BlackRock, you know, £1,000, and they said, we'll give you back 15% if we can keep it for a year, I don't know how much money they're going to make out of that.
I see.
They
Okay.
could make that £1,000, right, and turn it into £5,000 and still
Right.
only give me 150
Right.
quid,
True. True.
right? But I'll be going, well, that's 150 quid. I'm really happy because I've increased it by 20%. Woohoo. Whereas they've actually made.
My question for you in both cases, both your pension, also BlackRock, is that a guaranteed percentage or no?
Well, no, I would sit there and say it's like up to, you know, an anticipated response. Yeah.
Right.
And I would
So
also, I
it's
think
not guaranteed, right?
I've never
It's
seen
not
anybody
guaranteed.
do a guarantee.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay. Then yeah. Then I think yeah, true. You don't know
See,
the
it makes a
but
big
you also
difference, doesn't
don't
it?
you also don't know the performance of the pension fund, right? Do you?
Yeah, I do. In for the pension fund, it's absolutely transparent. I can show you a
So
piece
they
of paper.
tell you how much they make and how much they give you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can see it all. It's absolutely transparent. The thing that really annoys me is that the fund that they've invested in is losing money, yet they're still taking money off of me. So my pension fund is absolutely going down like that.
Okay.
Which means then that I should remove the money from there, put it in a SAS and work it myself.
Okay, I see. All right.
So I mean, the point is here is that if the model is you invest your money and we will aim to return between this and this,
Right.
then it's irrelevant to the investor how much more money we're making.
Right. Okay.
Right, because we're not, you know, that's what we do, right? We'll aim to give you a percentage return, but you know, we're going to make a lot more, right? If we're sitting there saying, well, of your profit, of the profit that your 100 gives us, we will split the profit this percentage wise,
Right.
then that's a different thing. Then we have to be transparent. You see what I mean?
Oh, kind of. You seems like you are claiming what I'm sensing is you are inclined to just provide a rough ROI range rather than telling people what the actual performance of the fund or strategy is. Is it right?
Yeah. So here's the thing. So if I took $100,000 from you or £100,000 from you, and I said to you, right, I'm going to go and invest it in property,
right?
But I'll give you a return of 10% per year, and I'll pay that monthly, right?
Right. But that's a guarantee. That's a guarantee.
Yeah, and I'll be paying you. Well, you see, I can do that with property because I know what to do with it.
Right.
It's stable enough for me to be able to almost guarantee that.
Right.
Because I know what I can invest it in, and I know what the asset class will do, and I know, and so on and so forth, right?
Right.
Then I'll sit there and go, but you see, you won't. You're committed to getting that percentage, and you're happy with that percentage because you know you're going to get it.
Right.
I then take that money, and the fact that I then invest it in.
Oh, okay. Having voice here. So
Right.
all right. You want to continue? I mean, finish this off?
Well, we haven't even gotten on to the stuff, have we, really?
Okay. All right. So yeah.
Do you want me to edit? Hold on a second. Louis, shut up. Come here. Stop barking. Good lad.
Okay.
Sorry.
I mean, would you like to do this today or tomorrow, same time? Because
Um,
I could have a 15-minute sync and jump back, right? Jump back, jump back.
well, I'll join the call in 15 minutes.
Okay, all right, let's do that. Okay,
All right, I'll leave and come
all
back
right.
in 15 minutes.
Okay, all right. Thanks. Take care.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.